We're live? Yeah, here we go. I see it now. It's on the, what do we call it? It's on my computer here. I see it. Well, welcome back. We kind of had a little bit of a disruption, a little bit of chaos. We're absolutely going to blame YouTube for this. I don't care if we get a monetary strike or they take away our channel or our cookies and milk. But these guys, their new format is absolutely killing us. Absolutely killing us. Yeah, we had to start a new stream, Ralph. Absolutely correct. We did. And in the interim, we lost Timothy Wayman because as soon as his PC went out from under him, we told him, Robert, how many times have we told him to feed the hamsters? How many?
I mean, I've had to tell him at least 50 times every time we put on a show. I don't know how it
Exactly.
didn't sink
I,
in yet.
I don't know how he just, here he comes. Now he probably went out and caught some squirrels or something. God. But anyway,
He needs to put some cats in that thing just to keep it going. Get some
yeah,
more
yeah,
hours on there.
chasing a mouse or something, at least something
Yeah.
like that. Well,
He says they eat too much food.
yeah, he's trying to get back. We just want to apologize to the community out there. Again, the onus is not on us. If it's on YouTube, absolutely on YouTube. We're putting it all on their shoulders. They're a big multi-million dollar corporation, so they can afford it. They can afford to take the hit and the criticism from us. We're here tonight on the show. Okay, Ralph is telling everybody if any of you guys are still connected to the old stream, go leave them a message. How do I do that?
I don't think there is a way that I can
Next.
get back to it.
All right, so we're going to start all over again. On one, on two, on three. Boom, here we go. Welcome to Model Railroading Live, the #1 model railroading show in the world. Tonight we're talking with Lloyd, Andy, and Robert, and Tim is out there in the Netherlands in a parallel universe right now as he's trying to get his computer together to work. And as soon as he comes in, we'll be able to chat with him as well. These four gentlemen, as you know, recently completed the 10-part series of Railroad Empires, How We Built Them. And, okay, half or more is still in the old stream waiting for you to come back. Human City Junction, the other stream on YouTube was closed by Heath says. So anyway, hey, there's Tim. Hey, Tim, welcome back, bro.
Yep. My computer decided to BSOD on me.
Oh, I hate when that happens.
I mean, I don't know how many times we got to tell you to go feed the hamsters or upgrade your power to cats. I mean,
so we were asking what the intent for this series was, and the explanation was to make you, the community, better modelers.
yeah, I don't know about making them better modelers, Bill. I think it was showing them different ideas and different processes that might spark some creativity in getting some things accomplished.
And get people started. We've got a lot of people here who are planning layouts or whatever, but a lot of the artists that we wanted to encourage was start building something, start building a little piece of it,
Each one of you have a different, from the videos and watching the shows, have a different approach to basic building. You have Lloyd, who's openly and admittedly, frankly, that he didn't know anything about model railroading, and look at what he's accomplished, and not Lloyd, really, not to sound insulting, and I really don't mean it, because I think your layout was premiered on our way back when we used to do the Saturday night 2-hour special show, and you had just finished building it or in the process of framing it, and gave us a lengthy video tour. But you're the kind of guy that's like, hey, I never did this before, but look what I accomplished. Mm-hmm. So to say if you could do it, anybody could do it, and that doesn't mean that I'm insulting you, if you understand what I'm saying. Because you have this knowledge of,
No insult there, Bill. that's why that show was mainly about how we do it. I mean,
Right.
Andy's got a very special way of doing things.
Well, that's because Andy's very special.
Yeah, that.
I mean, to say the least.
And I've got my ways, and everybody's got their own ways. I always said there is some wrong ways, but there's plenty of good ways of doing it. So I hope a lot of people learn a lot from different ways of doing things.
Do you guys think that you explained your plans and your techniques and your stuff that you did thoroughly, that it was understood by the community itself? Do you think you might have, I mean, not bringing it down, but bringing it up, was that a hard place to go so you didn't lose anybody?
I don't think it was complicated. I think it was pretty vague. We didn't go into details of how to do things. We just said this is how we do it, and it was pretty like the first season was supposed to be basic, very basic. So we didn't go into too many details on how to do things.
Right, right.
And I hope we covered our bases and got what we wanted out to the community and got the help to the community that we were wanting to get them.
It's superficially, I think that's true, and it depends on the particular show where I think that lands. I mean, there's various things that I do that are very interconnected and don't easily subdivide into roadbed, bench work, etc. These things, or scenery, for example. There's several things on my layout that are very, very intimately connected. Like my bench work is my scenic terrain. There is no segmentation between those two. I build my scenic terrain and it happens to hold the track up. I had to think about how to rationally divide that. And I probably did not do the best job of explaining some of those pieces in the time that I had available to do that reasonably. I think, as we go into more depth of some of these topics, in the future, I think I could possibly get people to understand it some. But I did a 1-hour clinic at Amherst several years ago, just on my bench work scenic terrain methodology. Just that one thing, which was a quarter of that one show that I had 10 minutes in, and I did that in an hour, and it was a quite full hour.
Mm-hmm. The Human City Junction wants to know, will you be putting up additional videos with the additional details on the process from Empire Builders?
Yeah, so the simple answer to that question is yes. My plan and goal right now is, with season 1 being completed and being beginner level, season 2 is going to be more of an intermediate level. And if we get there and we still have the energy to do it, season 3 will be more of a quote unquote expert level, going into more and more detail each season, just to kind of start filling in the gap.
Dan Cohen says, I tried to do what I see and read. This show had a perfect format for me.
Well, and one of the things we tried to reinforce from this, and we've all mentioned that as we've talked about this through the show, is that there are plenty, like Lloyd said, there are wrong ways to do things, but there's a whole lot of right ways, and what's right for you. And we hope that all of us would have some different technique or thought on each thing, like scenic contouring or whatever, where I don't use plaster, some of the other guys do. We've Robert showed us a new technique of using the styrofoam and screen, which I'm fascinated by. So these multitudes of different techniques, these are things that you can argue whether they're the right way but they are a right way because they work for each of us individually as modelers on our own layout. So this gives you a taste of a few ways that are proven to work because they work for us, and you can find the one that you like. You might ought to try a couple of them and see the one that you prefer to work with, because I just don't like working with plaster. So
right,
you get choice.
Yeah, Ralph Renzetti says maybe the show should be called The Art of Model Railroading.
Thanks, Ralph. We
title.
already have a name. We're going to stick with it.
Oh, okay, there we go. But hey, thank you, Ralph. Thank you. Most of your shows went an hour and 10 minutes. Were you happy with the length, or did you feel that was good, or did you want to go longer?
We tried to keep it just past an hour. I think we were shooting for an hour and 3 minutes. But we also kind of understood that if we were getting good community questions and feedback and interest, then we would go a little bit longer. And I think by going an hour and 10 minutes, it kind of showed us that while not getting enough community involvement or as much as we wanted, we were getting some. So we were willing to put on that extra little bit of time.
Now, if I'm mistaken, please correct me if I'm wrong. Your original concept was to go live so that you could get community involvement. Now, I went back over in preparing for this show, and I had the advantage of watching the video portion of the show. So it wasn't like I was watching it live with you guys when you were doing the show and keeping my eye on the Q&A, which I have to give Ari McKeever a big kudos. Ari, you really did a great job on the moderating of the show and getting the questions. But getting back to that, do you think that, because what I noticed was there wasn't a lot of questions on each, and the questions that were asked on different shows with different topics, with different things that people wanted to talk about in the community, off topic that what the show was, such as planning or terrain. They were talking about electrical and stuff like that. And I'd like to hear from, if the community's out there, as if you guys watch the show, did you feel it necessary to ask questions or not, or what's your position on it? This isn't a criticism. It's just your intent. Your intent was to hopefully get a lot of Q&A so that you could build on each show that came up. Am I correct?
Yeah, so we kind of had a standard mode of operations as far as which questions Ari was bringing to us, because he was kind of filling in that director role and host role. So I don't know if a lot of people are aware or were paying enough attention, but Ari was reading questions from the chat, and if it tied in directly to what we were talking about, as long as it was on topic, he would bring it to us. But if it was something off topic, he was just ignoring it and not even bringing it to our attention. We weren't really paying attention to YouTube at all during those entire shows.
Right. Well, you guys, okay, that was, I was going to say, my next question was, were you guys frustrated by the lack of questions?
Well, definitely, yes. I was expecting a lot more.
Yeah.
Like if you've got 30, 40 viewers, you'd expect to have, at least 10 people involved in asking questions. Or, okay, there's some subjects that, like, we only had 10 minutes each or 15 minutes each, so it was pretty hard to condense a lot of what we had to say. So I did expect people to ask questions, because like the way I did something, 15 minutes is, I would definitely ask questions on, but how did you do this, or how did you do that, or ask Robert, what's the difference between your way and his way, but there was barely any questions, not even in the videos. If people were watching the videos later, you probably had 2 people that would comment. That was also depressing.
But I have to say that in retrospect, looking at it too, is that all of us do some things in somewhat traditional ways, in somewhat standard ways that are well known. Surely, I use Homosode. That's super common in the hobby. But I think all of us do some of our techniques are controversial or at least questionable, and I expected some of those to be challenged for sure. I do a whole lot of crazy things on my layout that I myself am surprised that some of them have worked. And I'm often surprised that people don't challenge me more on them. I mean, don't get me wrong. Ralph challenges me plenty in the normal nightly chats on any of my ideas, for sure. But I expected some challenge and some pushback from our community, and we wanted that. We hoped that that would happen. Criticism is a good thing. I wanted to hear that and for all of our efforts and for all of our crazy ideas, because all of us have a few crazy ideas that we've instituted on our layouts.
Dan Cohen says, I think you'll get more questions as the show advances. He says, I'm just guessing here, but I bet most of the viewers have had some experience with the basics. So maybe that could have been.
That makes sense to me. That's the most logical thing to me is until you can get into some real deep, kind of complicated in depth of how something is done. Yeah.
Yeah, Strobe Light Audio says, I think as the likes go up and more people watch them, you'll get more questions.
Yeah, and that's one of the things we kind of figured out a little later was the likes and comments and how YouTube frames all of that information. So there's a certain point if you go back and watch all the shows where we started kind of pushing for that. And we were trying to push hard because we want to get this out to more than just our 30 or 40 people. We want to get this out to a broader range of folks. And what we really most people think it's just lip service, but what we really need is those likes, those comments. The community interaction on the YouTube page is what's going to push the content out to more people.
Right.
So yeah, it was a little frustrating for us to constantly go, hey, like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, all that yada yada yada, and then looking back at it every week and getting nothing. It's just like, ugh. And Dan Cohen actually was one of few people that did, hey, great show, you guys did really good, and we do appreciate that a lot. We really do.
Yeah. Dustin, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, he stuck with us. We had a loyal group of people, as we do. Monterey Live has a loyal group of people, and I generally consider that the effort that I put in is for the people that I comment and chat with and see some of the nightly chats. But the hope is that we can reach more people so that we can. It's all about sharing. If I get criticism from them, then I can learn something, and then hopefully I can maybe share that information on. That's the whole of the hobby.
Right.
I've learned from others, and I hope to continue to learn from others. And the idea that I can pass a little of that along to somebody else, I hope to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Dustin Zen-Scale Railroad, he says, actually, I hadn't got a chance to watch. He says, however, I get intimidating by watching some stuff because I'm a beginner. Now that I know it is geared to beginners, I will make sure to watch. Dustin, Robert.
That's exactly what we were gearing it for.
Exactly, right. But, Dustin, I would answer your question by saying there's a lot of things, a lot of us on this show right here haven't done. We weren't born, and mom and dad said to us in the high chair, you guys are going to be the best model railroaders in the world. Train you up. We're going to train you up to be that. It's only because of your love and compassion for the hobby and you like the hobby that you want to learn. And because you have a passion for it, you want to learn more. And then you want to do more. And you want to make a ton of mistakes. I firmly agree in making mistakes. I absolutely do.
When they say your railroad is never finished?
Right.
That's the reason. Is because let's say you've watched our 10 first shows, which were basic, and you're going to watch, let's say, season 2, and you learn something, you might take apart what you've done before and redo it. So you're all basically learning all the time. I know I am, and it's going to be 5 years in November.
Right.
Yeah, this is my first major layout build myself. So I mean, and I was inspired by the original group of guys back several years ago, and I've never felt really intimidated by anybody in this group. Actually, they've been very welcoming to anybody who wants to join. And very knowledgeable, and they'll help you get done what you need to get done. I mean, I've been hanging out probably about 3 or 4 years now. And you know, I started in the hobby a little bit when I was, fairly young. My dad was a model railroader, but we never had a real layout. I had a 4x6 board or something like that had the green sawdust paper stapled down on it, and just all flat terrain, nothing real fancy, all lifelike and Tyco trains. And now that I'm older, my son actually is the reason why I got back into the hobby, because he got interested in Thomas and got interested in model trains, and he wanted me to build him a layout back several years ago when we were in a smaller house, and I started building a 4x8, and we moved into this bigger house, and we've got full-size attic up here. I started building a full-size layout for both of us.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, Tim is an example, because I think hold on, let me just check. Yeah, your check cleared the other day, so you're good. You can stay.
Well, and to drive Tim's point home just a little bit more, when I first joined this group, I mean, it was YouTube model builders back then. This was a few years ago, and Andy remembers this, I'm sure, that my first layout was 2 4x8 sheet, 2x4, easily 4x8 tables, 2 4x8 tables. That's hard to say. And built out of 4x4s and 2x4s and 3/4 inch plywood, for crying out loud. I could stand on this thing.
Tell them what the theme was. Come on, admit that one. That's good stuff.
So the original plan I had for these things were they were going to be separated tables. One side was going to have a Halo theme. I don't know if y'all know gaming culture, but it was going to be Halo themed. The other side was going to be a Star Wars theme, and I was totally going to go completely freelance. Like, I was going to own it, mod out the trains so that they didn't look like anything that we'd ever seen before.
That's freelance.
And then I got talking to these yahoos, and next thing you know, I'm doing, a coal scene and a bridge and an oil refinery and boring stuff we've all seen before.
You on Naked 4 says, the one thing I have never understood is why such a low live view account for such a great quality show. This is the best live model railroading show on YouTube, hands down. Hence the reason why we are the #1 model railroading show.
And we've had pretty good chat reactions, but as far as the YouTube algorithm goes, it doesn't see that. All it really is looking at is watch times and likes, comments, things like that. They're community interaction. So while we put on good content, that's why we're not getting out farther.
Let's see this. I'm looking at some of these questions. I'm backtracking some of these questions. Randall Ellis is asking a question on that is basically Randall Ellis is asking about using a booster to program sound decoders. I know Soundtracks and Tony's Train Exchange makes them, but that's about as far as my knowledge goes on them. Well, Brenda, that as Human City says and Ralph says, that's a good question for Johnny's Train Talk Show tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. That's the kind of question that Johnny lives for. He actually loses sleep at night waiting for questions like this so that he can answer them. And I'm not kidding. He really does. He loves the challenge. He loves the what do you call it? The introspect of it and to get around it. Right, and you can come in afterwards, Randall, on his channel is called Johnny's Train Talk Show. That's on Thursday night tomorrow at 9 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But also afterwards, you can go on whereby.com, Model Railroading Live. That's where all these guys sit loosely around, and talk model railroading. So you're more than welcome to join.
Yeah,
nightly. That's nightly.
It's around basically a roundtable discussion every night.
Yeah, it's a roundtable discussion, pretty loose and stuff like that.
You know, we to answer one of the questions, why we don't have that many viewers. I mean, how many out there know that we have a YouTube page where you could post what you're doing, or if you have any questions, and the community could get more involved. And the more our page gets viewed, more people will come and to our YouTube, not YouTube, but our Facebook page, and they could see that our show is always advertised a day in advance or 2 days in advance. So everybody should be posting on our Facebook page what they're doing, or if they have any questions.
And we're pretty active on there, so we show off. By all means, we want to see people show off. We're working on a whole new series of videos that are, from a bunch of different small segment things, and we hope to show off other people's efforts that in our community. I mean, we are a community group. We're not just a group of guys that happen to have some, a bunch of model railroad groupies or something to follow us. We are the community too. It's us who are in the nightly chat all the time. We just.
I wish I could be the next Luke Cowan.
Yeah, sure.
I just don't have that ability.
Dan,
we are just our own community. We entertain our own community.
Yeah,
You got to eat a lot of Wheaties, Robert.
Yeah.
Dan Cohen says to Dustin, he says, absolutely stick with this show. When you see a technique that interests you, search for the same thing throughout YouTube, and you will see how all of us modelers feed off each other. And that's very true, Dan, very true. Human City Junction Heat says, I think a lot of model railroaders are introverts. We like being alone in our basements. Some people are comfortable chatting, but others like keeping to themselves. Absolutely, I agree. I think one of the genesis of the YouTube model builders was to have model builders share share what they were doing on YouTube videos. We have since morphed into something I think a lot bigger and a lot better in showcasing a lot of techniques and a lot of things that we're doing and bringing the community in. We want to bring those guys out of the basement, and say, hey, this is the greatest hobby in the world, and stuff like that. So people are comfortable in doing and just chatting, but others like keeping to themselves, and we're certainly not disparaging them or anything. We just everybody's invited. In fact, all you guys that are listening in the community, you can email each and every one of us at our first names: Bill, Lloyd, Andy, Tim, Robert, John at modelrailroadinglive.com.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, modelrailroading.com. So if you have a question or a thing you'd want to discuss, feel free. We'll get it. Yeah. Yeah. Just I'm going through these questions as I get to them, and let me see. I saw something by
While you're thinking, Bill, I pulled up one of the pictures from my first layout that I wanted to show Randall, because he was telling us that he had a 4x8 foot layout with 2 tracks and all that. I wanted to show you this one. This is my first layout. I completely understand where you're at with the 4x8 foot and 2 loops. I had 2 power packs running on this thing. Man, let me tell you, come into the nightly chats, whereby.com. Andy, is it / or /? I can't remember.
Forward.
Yeah.
/ model railroading live, all one word. We are more than happy to help you out, explain things, and answer any questions you've got. And you might hear us banter back and forth a bit. We're kind of bad at that, but we're always able to answer questions.
There's always multiple answers that you'll get, and you just have to figure out which one works best for you.
Yeah, you got to sort through the BS a little bit. I'm not gonna lie to you.
And nobody's gonna pick on. Nobody in here will pick on you. If they do, we'll nail them back. I mean, Andy's a little bit of a rivet counter.
A little bit.
But I'm not of the bad attitude kind. I
No,
that's
appreciate
true.
everybody else's where you want to get to, what vision you have. I have no condemnation in the world for it. And I've said many, many times, this is our hobby. It's entertainment. If at the end of the day you are entertained, you are a success at it. Full stop. It doesn't matter what anybody's opinion is. But my own work, I am fairly persnickety about it. And I got that way over a long period of time. And because I'm just kind of a persnickety kind of person, and I'm comfortable, I've made peace with that. So, but I don't see everybody needs to get there. Needs to be that.
Well, You Are Naked says, I love spending time in the basement, but the people that live there always call the cops when they find me in their house. You have to do something about it.
See, Bill, this is the kind of shenanigans we had to put up with through our entire series.
Let's see. Strobe Light Audio says, can the live chat comments be added as comments on the saved video when the stream ends? They are now. Yes, that might boost recognition. Yes, they are now.
So you should be able to watch the chat scroll by as you watch the video now. If you're watching through a web browser, if you're watching on a TV or something, I don't think you get the chat comments.
Right. One of the guys that joined in is John 2618. John, I hope you're still out there. This Saturday night. Now, John is one of the guys that I highlighted on Who's Big Bill Talking To. I had him on the show, and John's first question to me when I reached out to him is, why would you want me to be on your show? He said, I've seen your show, and you've had experience better modelers than me. And my answer to him was that his enthusiasm and what he was doing on his small shelf layout, and how he did it, and why he was doing it. And one of the things that impressed me with John Farrington and John Arthur and William A. and Ed, Fred E. and Heath of Human City Junction was their enthusiasm. Was they jumped into the deep end of the pool, and they said, hey, we really, and these are young men. These aren't old guys like me, these are young men, and they're really into the hobby, and they're really into doing and learning and wanting to learn and explore. Heath has got his own channel going. He's hooked up with the Rainbow Bell and the other guys, and he's doing tremendous thing. And so is John Farrington. And John Farrington and Thomas what's his last name? I forgot his last name, and I can't even pronounce it. Oh man, I forgot his last name. Tom. Well, they're going to be on this Saturday. I can't. Makowski. Okay, yeah, him.
James Lewis. Yeah, that guy.
That guy. Tom and John are going to be on this. Small layout, big opportunities, and they're going to be on this Saturday. So there you go. It can happen. The dream can come true. So Freddie Model Railroad says, I'm young at 71. You absolutely are, John. You absolutely are, Freddie. But these are the guys that are out there, and I think you guys, I have to say that one of the things that I enjoyed watching and going over the show was I got to the number 5, electrical. Electrical opened up with our good friend Lloyd. Now, for all you guys out there that are listening, if you've watched the show on a regular basis, you'll see that Lloyd said that he really wasn't into model railroading. It wasn't something that he strived for or, that was on his radar, but he wanted to do it. So you opened up with the about, your bus line, and then your feeder cables, and it dawned on you as you were looking at the label, you kind of like in exasperation, like, these take 300 volts.
Well, Lloyd, your main goal on your layout changed too, didn't it? Weren't you going to just do like continuous running originally, and then you changed to now doing operations?
No, I always wanted to do operations, but I didn't know what operations were. So I thought it was operations. I thought I was just taking cars from there and putting them there, and then taking them back and putting them where they were before. Yeah, that's what I thought it was. But now I've learned completely different.
I think that's very common. And I have not seen, and you guys have heard me lament this in the normal nightly shows, or normal nightly chats just talking about this. I don't think there has been in book or any other form anything that gets over that barrier to entry for people to understand operations. What do you need to think about? What decisions does a person need to make? There's a lot to it, and people don't, you know, and there's a bit, and operations means a big wide range of things. And that was our thought on the show. How we wire a layout, for example, on the electrical show, there's a big wide range of how a person might go about wiring the layout. For some people, that's a whole lot of copper wire. Me and Ralph can debate the cost of that wire. And for some of us, it's a lot of circuit boards and electronics these days. So,
Well,
but
you got a point, Andy, because a lot of people say that they don't have room to build a layout. Well, if you got a 2x4, 2x6, or 2x8 area that you could use, and you do like a little switching layout, there's plenty of operations that you could do on a 2x8. And then you could grow it and add another 2x8 later. So you can start very small by like a small shelf layout, and you're doing operations.
And you can do quite a bit depending on scale. If you go in scale, you can do a lot in a 2x8 section.
And look at what these Brits are doing. Just search, just go Google or search for micro layout or micro layout model railroad. Go look at what people are building in G in 18, 122.5 or 124 or whatever scale with really narrow track, but G in 18 in a shoebox size. So it's totally doable to make something operational on something the size of an IKEA shelf board or something. It's about how far you want to take that, go a little further with it. But my hope in building the layout series, the whole idea behind the Empire series was get out of the chair and build a little something. You could easily build a couple little modules that fold up and stick in the corner. And no, we didn't go into as much depth about the layout, the small layout, just about building something. But all of the things that we did, everything we did would apply to a 1.8 foot shelf layout as much as it does to our layout.
Well, Jennifer Holloman, I think she's related to Robert in some shape, form, or way.
That's my better half.
Okay. She's talking about her young son Liam. Definitely next generation. He already likes chasing trains on the weekends.
You should see his new layout. He's got a second layout that's what is it, 112?
Yeah, 1/6 maybe. I'm not entirely sure. Here, let me show you.
Let's see. Dan Cohen says I just started two 2x4 modules to create an HO switching layout.
Perfect.
Jennifer Holmes, hello. And Human Junction says my problem is that I like rail fanning and run-bys, not operations. I want to run long trains. Yes.
You're going to need a lot of space.
That's
yes.
true. And most of us like to or enjoy watching the trains at times too. But if you're going to have a layout for a long time, and I anticipate that this layout in some form will be my lifetime layout. I expect to own it for a number of years, and I hope it grows and moves with me to other places, etc. This is my 13th layout over a whole bunch of years, but I hope that I continue to grow this layout. But if you have a layout for a long period of time, they get a bit boring just running trains on them and just building them. Some people just build, and that's fine. You can keep building, tearing out, and rebuilding if that entertains you. And it does me too. I like building it. But operations is a way to take the thing that we built and to bring it to life in a unique way, socially with a couple other friends. That's really important.
And it's not to say you can't do continuous running either and do long trains and run bys.
That's right. Because like my passenger train has 11 cars, 3 locomotives, and that's going to be running nonstop while the rest of us will be doing operations. So, I mean, you could have both.
Yep.
Dave of BNSF N Scale says to Heath, you got to get out of that city. Bigger place, cheaper cost of living. Heath of Human City Junction wants to know, is Jennifer holding the brains of the operation over there?
Yeah, she'd like to think so.
Well, okay. Randall Ellison says, one thing the West Plain Model Railroading Club did with their layout was run one loop on DCC and the other loop on DC. It's a very user-friendly layout. That sounds good.
That is a pretty nice thing to do.
Yeah. John 2618 says, starting something small is great because you will most likely redo things as you learn. And I think that's true. I think guys like Heath and John, starting out small, when they get the opportunity and the size where they want to build bigger, they, absolutely, can learn from their mistakes. But then again, everything that we do, you always learn from the previous layout to the next bigger layout. Listen, at this time, I need to really seriously make a special announcement. Scott is back at the Neely Historical Railroad. He is back in the building with them. He's no longer traveling the world, seeing the sights of other model railroaders in New Zealand, Australia, or anywhere else. He is now officially back at the new Historical Railroad with Don G and Don Senior, and he's hanging out there. So you guys go and check out the Neely Historical Railroad because Scott is back, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, okay. There we go. Stop sharing. Scott is a wonderful man, and so is Don G at the Neely Historical Railroad. Human City, let's see. Randall Ellis continues and says, yeah, plus it gives everyone in the club a chance to run trains regardless if they're DCC, sound equipped or not. It's a win-win situation. You're absolutely right. Michael Lambertini says, I'm pulling a 60-car coal train on a 1,700 square foot, 2.5% grade. My track is done. I have no scenery started, yet it's a plywood Pacific.
Hey, everyone's got to start somewhere.
Yep.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
Don't take much to throw a coat of brown paint on it and start dropping some foam or some static grass on it.
What was
1,700 square feet? That's going to take probably a week. That's a lot of square footage.
What was the best? What did each and every one of you have a favorite episode that you did that you enjoyed doing?
Well, I can say for myself, the one episode that I really wanted to talk about, it's the one that I miss. It was about structures. And I love structures. So, and I was in a hospital. So I wish I could start over just that episode. Because I got structures.
Yeah, we're hopefully gonna go into a little bit more detail on the structures and next season. So we'll probably do a quick recap of what we covered the previous season. And
what was your favorite episode to do?
I don't know if I specifically had a favorite episode. I mean, one of my favorite things is actually getting the ground cover down. I would say probably the ground cover episode and the scenery. That's one of my favorite things to do.
I like that too.
I like the extras because that's what brings everything to life.
It does.
The extra detail stuff.
Yeah, the extra details, like could be a railroad gate. It could be the people the cars, utility poles, all the extras that you put into the layout. The garbage, pallets.
I have to admit that is actually a You're absolutely right, Lloyd. I have on my layout the Kentile floor sign. It's an absolutely monstrous sign. Takes when you walk in, it's the centerpiece of the layout. And I have a warehouse type factory next to a fire escape on the side, and it has a piece of wind-blown newspaper stuck to the side of the fire escape. And people come in and they don't see they see the Kentile floor, but they say, "Is that a newspaper that's stuck on that fire escape?" And I go, "Yeah." And they go, "That's so cool." Nobody ever says, "Well, how did you build that Kentile?" So you're right. It's the details. I have to say that on the last show, your diorama of your building of your distillery was absolutely fantastic. It was filled with detail.
Thanks. Yeah, it was. I think one of the reasons I probably didn't finish in first place is because I had too much. There's too much stuff. It was too much.
So Andy, did you have a favorite?
I don't know. I mean, one of my favorite things to do is that, I mean, I've really fell in love with scenery, and like most people do, I think that's a real common occurrence. I had never done that. I'd always had plywood Pacifics. The mini layouts I'd had before were plywood, and I'd done some really awful scenery on them when I was young. But I'd never tried anything that was like I was seeing in the magazine. So I was really excited to try the scenery on this layout. I think my favorite part is the beach work and scenic terrain component because they're the same piece for me, because I'm shaping the whole thing. The scene's really coming together. It comes from a sheet of styrofoam laid against the wall into a shape with hills and with a mountain and where the track goes, and everything. The vision starts to come to fruition for me there, and I like the technique that I use, and I was happy to share it, and I think we did a pretty decent job of doing that. So I think the Scenic Train's a pretty interesting show. Plus, we all had different techniques on it. There was a lot of distinction and differentiation there.
Robert, what was the one for you that you enjoyed producing?
For me, it was terrain. Look, the reality is putting a show like this together is a lot of work. Even having a show every 2 weeks, there's still a lot of work that goes in behind it and figuring out, what you want to present on the show, and it's not in it. The truth about the terrain episode for me was, while it was new towards the group, I actually found that on Eric Stiegel's videos, Eric's trains, and I thought it was pretty great technique, so I wanted to give it a shot. It's something that Andy and I kind of talked about a little bit, and I just decided, hey, you know what? I'm going to pull the trigger on this thing. I'm going to see if it works. If it works for me, great. If it don't, no harm, no foul, right? So I got the chance to practice a little bit and get some timings down, because with that stuff, man, it is all timings. There's thermodynamics that you have to account for, and relative humidity that you've got to account for. It's a lot that goes into that stuff. And I'm making it sound a lot more complicated than it really is, but I had a chance a week to play with it, and finally got it to where I sort of figured it out enough that I was ready to present it. And so that was the one for me that I got to do start to finish. The format was all messed up because of timings on this stuff, but it worked out in the long run, and I think that was one of the episodes that we actually ended up having quite a bit of views on.
Yeah.
I have to
that
say,
one too.
and going over talked about it earlier. Out of the views that all of them, the ground cover, structures, and scenic terrain were one of the three highest, and the structures was well up into the 300s views after it had archived and everything. So the structures were very well received, and so was the ground cover and the scenic terrain, which I found a little bit unusual because your bench work too was high in the views. But I thought the road bed and the others, track work and stuff, they kind of evened out at, at the whatchamacallit, but the structures series seem to.
Well, yeah, and with roadbed and track work, I mean, there's really not a whole lot of different ways to do those two components. You got cork, you got homosoap, you got basically neoprene foam. That's it. You know, if
Yeah.
somebody's got a different way that they're doing it, let me know, because I'll figure out a test method and talk about it on an upcoming show next season. No, that's fine.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think the show overall was like a success. I do. Do you guys feel in the show itself that you achieved what you wanted to achieve? Or do you think there could have been room for more?
Oh, I think there's a lot of room for us to have learned from it. I mean, I know we've talked about that a little bit. There's a lot of things to like about our first shot. There's a lot of things that work. Some of them somewhat surprisingly well, and there's things that we would like to modify going into season 2 to try to give us more time individually to get into some more depth of some of these subjects. So it's still a work in progress to find the right format, in my personal opinion.
And as we were going, we were making some rolling changes, per episode. Episodes, we had some differences that we made because we found some stuff that didn't work out real well and some stuff that really worked out well, and we integrated those more into each show.
Yeah, so a little bit of behind the scenes snippet for you guys. So we had meetings every Wednesday prior to the show. So show was on Saturday. We had a meeting on Wednesday. We'd go over what we were going to talk about, who was going to go in what order, things like that. And we kind of really fine-tuned a lot of things in that pre-show meeting. But then after the show, after we dropped off the live, then we sat and had another hour-long meeting after the fact. Okay, boys, what worked, what didn't, what's your feelings, what do we need to adjust? And we would put a lot of work and effort into each one of these shows.
And to answer Dan Cohen's question about blooper reel, I mean, basically there was no bloopers. We recorded
the whole show was a blooper. What are you talking about? We're live.
It was recorded live, so if there was any bloopers, it's in the live in the show. I mean, nothing in our show was pre-recorded. We may have had it pre-planned out, but that doesn't mean it always worked out the way we expected it to. Like Robert and his foam, it didn't necessarily time the way he wanted it to really time, so we had to make some adjustments during the show and kind of come back to him.
Yeah.
So I mean,
for that one specifically, it was. So listen, Andy, this thing's got a window of 10 to 15-ish minutes, and basically it's all on feel. So when it just starts to not feel tacky anymore, that's when I need to jump in and finish off the segment. So I'm just gonna run over the top of you, and it's coming. So be ready for it.
Right.
And we had another room open, and we had Ari in the background, kind of helping manage us.
Yeah.
And letting us know, and we could actually communicate back and forth via messenger, and give each other notes. Hey, Andy, shut up for a minute so we can get going.
There's a fair bit of that.
And timing's tricky. We had to have an earpiece in our ears to figure out the timing of things. And yes, I can be verbose.
Verbose, that's a big word.
He does that once in a while.
Human City Junction has a question. He says, are there any audio production changes that you would make for the next series?
So to answer that question, there are always things that we want to change. Unfortunately, the way we're doing it, I know she put in a wisecrack there, and I'm just going to go ahead and ignore it for now. There are always changes we want to make, but since we do everything through Whereby, it kind of it puts us in a certain
limitation.
Constraint.
Yeah, there's a limitation to it. There's constraints to it. So I think, Andy, correct me if I'm wrong, but it only goes up to 1080p.
Yeah, it's surprising if we can actually do that much on an individual. It's challenging to do. to increase quality. We put effort into increasing quality. YouTube only gives us like 360p, lower than a DVD. So that's why we started doing Twitch in addition to, but then we didn't have much viewership over there anyway. People weren't watching it on Twitch. So
And
Well-
a lot of it depends on our personal internet connections too, onto what we can actually put out to the internet.
Right.
Yeah.
In the meantime, right before the show started, I actually upped my internet connection speed
Right.
to try to get a better stream.
And
I mean, man, I wish we could afford to have a T3 truncated, dedicated internet connection for all of us to be able to stream proper and have whiz bang TV cameras and things like that. But the truth of the matter is, man, we're all working on a budget and we're doing the best we can as far as the audio and video goes, and we're doing the best we can.
And talking about bloopers and everything, our favorite and all-time best, Jennifer Holloman says, except for things like when Robert shocked himself making his homemade static applicator, that
was great.
That wasn't recorded, she said.
No, because I didn't make it on the show either. I just kind of made it off the show, So that was funny. I built this whole thing. It looks great. It works great. But I put a brass alligator clip on the end of it so I could clip it to a nail or something. And I didn't think about putting some silicone or anything around it to, insulate it a little bit. So I'm holding on to this. I'm shaking like this above it. And next thing I know, what's that? I get a nice static shock right into my hand. It was great.
I'd say that's Jen's fault for not having her phone recording that.
I'm with you. It's her fault.
Randall Ellis would like to know, have you guys done any shows on making and or applying custom decals for freight cars? No,
but that sounds
right.
So
that sounds like a great show for Ralph to do.
Yeah.
They don't have those things out there. They have decals. I think they're similar.
That's true. Well, potato, tomato, tomato.
I mean,
Hey, let's call the whole thing off. Let's say, yeah. Randall, that is an excellent question, and that is an absolute great show to do.
I know Ron Marsh has done some custom decals.
I'd love to have somebody do a custom decal thing so we could learn how to do that.
I've actually got some decal paper here because I was going to work on making some custom decals.
So tricky without white ink.
That's why you buy white decal.
Yeah, if the rest of the colors, you just got to do it in pieces. Then it's doable.
Yeah. Let's see. What do we got? Any more? Let's see.
You notice that, huh, Johnny?
Family Feud going on in the chat.
Oh, she should have known to record that.
Jennifer Holloman
would have done something funny.
Jennifer says, "Whatever, Andy." LOL.
Yeah.
Well, see, that is exactly why I do my modeling stuff after she takes the boy to bed, because when he goes down, she goes down too. So I'm left here to my own devices for a couple hours, and that's when shenanigans like getting shocked happen.
Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, I think this series, the Railroad Empire, and how we built them, I think it was a success. I think it was, in my opinion. I think it was. I hope that you guys think it was.
The Bob says boo.
I think that you guys accomplished a lot. I think that going forward with this, in the second series, we alluded to the second series, Bob. What is in store for us here in the second season of this? And when can we expect this to start rolling out?
So the premiere for season 2 is going to be November 7th. It's going to be just like this. The schedule is going to be just like season 1 was.
Excuse me. I don't mean to interrupt, but your wife just said you require more supervision than a 1-year-old.
Sometimes she's not lying, Bill. I mean,
Don't we all?
Oh,
Thanks, Jack.
hey. Give me your address. I'm sending her some chocolates.
You already got my address. So we're just going to gloss over that one. So premiere date's going to be November 7th. We're going to focus on more of an intermediate level modeling. We have yet to kind of hone down in on what exactly each show is going to be about. It is going to be every other week. Here's where the big difference is going to be. Two big differences. The first is we're only going to have 2 presenters per episode. The hope behind that is that while we're working on a camera down perspective, you, the viewer, are going to be able to see more of what we're doing. And we won't really have that presenter mode so much because the viewable face is a lot more with just 2 as opposed to 4. The other big change is that each episode for season 2 is only going to be 30 minutes long. The hope behind that is that it won't eat up a lot of your guys' time, and especially when you got family around for the holidays and this other stuff. And when you guys watch it after it archives, you won't eat up a whole lot of time watching it and spending a whole bunch of time. So we're hoping that will help increase viewership. The other thing we're going to do, and I think we've kind of decided this as a whole team, Bill, maybe if I'm wrong, please correct me. But especially for our show, we're actually going to post the actual show schedule ahead of the first episode so that you have a chance to really focus in on which episodes you really, truly want to watch. What we're hoping to get out of this is that by doing this, we're hoping to have more topic-driven questions in the chat. We don't mind a little bit of banter, but we kind of want to keep this to a focus if we can. So just like first season, we're gonna kind of ignore all the banter back and forth, and we're gonna answer any questions that are topic related.
Okay. I like that idea. I think that makes a lot of sense, and I'm actually looking forward to it. I think the 30-minute format will also keep everybody's attention as long as it's brief and brilliant. That's basically what it boils down to. Brief and
The
brilliant.
trick is going to be keeping Andy down to about 12 to 13 minutes.
I've done it all season. That's what
I will say that Andy has been has absolutely adhered to the 10-minute rule, and
He's been pretty good about it. I'll give him that. As much as I like to give him a hard time, he's been really pretty good at it.
I've been a
he's
good
been,
boy.
yes, he has, and he's been concise and on point with everything that he's that he's presented on his end of what he's done. Very interesting, and stuff like that. But other than that, I think you guys really hit it out of the ballpark. I mean, it was your first long time, a season. That's really the first time we've ever went more than, other than the JMRI thing, which we went on forever and ever and ever, and it lives in perpetuity.
Yeah, but that's you can't even really compare that, Bill, because it wasn't done right at all.
No, it wasn't. You're right. That's when we were new to this whole thing, and we were.
I've been thinking about redoing that series.
There's a lot to cover in JMRI. I mean, just covering the basics in JMRI is several shows.
All right, let's not go down the rabbit hole here. But this is the first 10-parter that we ever did. The longest series. We've kind of kept them to 4 parts and short, concise. But just so that you guys out there in the community know, we are transitioning into the new season. September, October, November, we're coming into the model railroading season. Unfortunately, hopefully we won't have a repeat of what we had over the summer with this COVID thing going on. We hope that things will start coming back to, some sort of a normalcy, and that we're able to be a little bit more concise in doing this. And the great thing about doing this is that we don't have to get tested before we come in. I don't know if I'm going to get in trouble with YouTube about this and stuff, but if I do, it was just a joke, all right? So don't take it seriously. But as we go into this new season, we have a lot of things planned, a lot of new shows planned. Andy's in the process of working with some fine, upstanding modelers in presenting little short clips. And this Saturday, we're teaming up with John Farrington and Tom. I can't for the life of me say his Tom. And this Saturday, and I think you guys should tune into that. We have some other things on tap that we're going to be doing and trying. And Robert and his crew are going to be coming back. And when do you expect the new show to air? Do you have a time, date, guesstimate?
Yeah, November 7th for the third time.
You said that throughout this whole thing?
3 times. Hey, I'm just making sure the repetition, man. Repetition makes it stick, right? It's all good.
Right. Okay, November 7th. All right. So there we go. November 7th. I want to thank each and every one of you guys for your efforts in Model Railroading Live. I know I don't get to say it often enough, but and also big shout out to Ari McKeevy for his due diligence and his behind the scenes stuff, not getting his props for being in front of a camera and presenting. He's a very good N-scale modeler and very well versed in a lot of modeling techniques. And he was very instrumental in helping moderate this 10-part series. And so we didn't give enough credit to him for his participation. So thank you again, Ari, and each one of you guys. Thank you so very, very much for the hard work that you put into each and every series and just keeping the Model Railroading Show the #1 model railroading show in the world. You guys really put a lot of effort into it, and it shows by and your compassion for the hobby. And I believe it shows that to the community as well. So thank you very much for your efforts and for your endeavors. We want to apologize to Rod Stewart. We were supposed to have him on, but unfortunately, we ran out of time again. Rod, I am so sorry. I know that you were waiting out there in London for us to come on with you, but I'm really, truly sorry for that. We will try to get you in on the next Who's Big Bill Talking To. The next Big Bill's Talking To will be next Wednesday. I have Joe Atkins on, and hopefully we can squeeze you in, Ron, at the end of that. But again, my apologies to Sir Rod Stewart for not getting you in due to we ran out of time. That's basically it. This tomorrow night on the Thursday night, September, we will be having a Johnny's Train Talk Show. We'll be on at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where you guys can come and jump in, just like we're doing right here, right now. You can bring and brag. You can talk about anything you like related to model railroading and stuff like that. So come on down to the general store, pull up a chair and sit around, pull a cold soda pop out of the cooler and sit around and talk about model railroading. And then on Saturday night, small layouts with big opportunities. We're going to be talking with the new show, a 4-part series with Tom McCloskey. I hope I said that name. I do apologize, Thomas, for butchering that name of yours. I really am. And John 2618. It will be a new series airing this Saturday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on your #1 model railroading show, RL. So with that said, I want to thank you again. You guys take care. God bless. Be well. And we'll see you on the radio.
See you, everybody.
What? Yes, Jennifer, I will. You will. If I say I will. Don't worry about it. Don't worry, I will. You'll get the chocolate. Don't worry. Stay well, be safe, but most of all, be blessed, folks. Take care and God bless.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Right.